Alright, Shalom. First, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles, elders, great most honor, well, and to us is truth, and blessings to the elect, the nation of Israel. Brother Cal coming with a very short lesson, and Lord will it be edifying. And I want to touch on what's been going on in America. In case people don't know, this woman here on the right, alright, was killed by ICE agents. So ICE is like the people that are trying to get illegal immigrants, except, and asking for ID and so forth. But they're just doing it blanketly, They even do it to Native Americans, Israelites from the tribe of Gad, which is ironic that you're asking the people who are indigenous to America for ID, and if they don't have ID, you put them in a ICE detention center. Outrageous, man. Outrageous. But this is happening. Now, there's many Edomites that don't like this. So they've been basically the communities, especially the Latino community, who are Israelites in the Northern Kingdom, have been coming together. So when ICE does its enforcement, people film it and so forth, in a resistance movement. This woman was shot in the face multiple times, all right, by ICE agents, and they're claiming self-defense. This is absolutely outrageous. This is all bullcrap. All right. I want to see here. I'm sure this is BBC News. A beautiful spirit, the Christian work of a woman shot dead by ICE, and she's the one on the right. All right, Becca Hainsworth. All right, knew Renee Nicole Good. That's the woman that got unalived. All right, long before her name and face went around the world after her fatal shooting by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, agent in Minneapolis. All right, and it says here she was extremely caring, soft, and a beautiful soul, said her friend since they were teenagers. See, so she was, reviewing what ICE is doing and filming things, all right? But they put her to death, basically. I'm going to show you the footage. But this reminds me of years ago when the Lord first brought me the truth and I started to go out on the street. I remember our leader back then, he said, look, man, you can't argue with the police. You're not supposed to be doing that, And then he brought out this scripture that I'm going to show you, okay? Let's see here. Matthew. All right, Matthew 5 and 25. Yeah. Matthew 5 and 25. All right. And once he showed me the scripture, I just kept my mouth shut and changed, man, because the one thing about this truth is to be obedient to the Heavenly Father's laws, statutes, and commandments to the best of our ability. All right, and that will save your life. And I remember the other day we had a camp last week. It was freezing at camp, and the captain talked about 70 AD, and the people that fled Israel and went into Egypt, which is Africa, they actually listened to the Messiah, Yahushai, and obeyed him, because he said that. As in Luke 21, he said, when you see Jerusalem encompassed with armies, know that your desolation is nigh. All right, therefore flee to the mountains. All right, so the ones that listened to him, they were obedient, and they fled, and they weren't massacred. The ones that didn't, they got surrounded by the Romans in Jerusalem, and also places like Masada, and they were put to death. Some of them starved to death. All right, other methods as well. Okay, so obedience to Yahweh Shai is going to keep us stable, all right, in these wicked times that we're living. All right, this is Matthew 5 and 25. Agree with thine adversary quickly. All right, adversary, okay? And who's our main adversary? Esau and the other nations, man. So-called white man and the other nations. They're the ones, but the top one is Edomites, you white people. Agree with thy adversary quickly, whilst thou art in the way with him, right? lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge. So you want to keep your mouth shut and just, say yes sir, 3 bags full sir, so it doesn't go into an arrest. And then the arrest doesn't, you have to go to court and then a judge and all this bullshit. Alright? Keep your mouth shut. So agree with thy adversary quickly while he's in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. Okay? And that's the reason why a lot of, in America, people are packed in them prisons, man. And a lot of it is due to disobedience. Disobedience to the laws of the land in America, which are, most of them are bullshit, but obviously breaking the Heavenly Father's laws, statutes, commandments. If you keep the commandments to the best of your ability, the Lord is going to favor you. If you don't, why should he favor you? So there's going to be many times where we're going to have to interact, especially in the time we're in now, with law enforcement. All right, we have to meditate on these scriptures, man, and apply it in our day-to-day life. Okay? And I'm going to show you the footage of this shooting. And they're basically trying to say that it's self-defense, and she tried to run the guy over. You know what? You guys judge for yourself. You know what I mean? I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but this is absolutely outrageous, man. This man he has no what's it called? He has no integrity whatsoever. He doesn't even care about his own people. All right? Even the people in the government, J.D. Vance and all these people, they've condemned this woman. And you know why they've condemned this woman? Because she wanted to help blacks and Latinos. That's why. So they look at her as a traitor, and now she's dead. They're assassinating her character. This is tried and tested. All right, since the inception of America, they've been doing this to us. All right, so let's have a look at this video of the shooting.
An immigration officer shoots and kills a woman in Minneapolis, 37-year-old Renee Good. It's disturbing, but it's critical to understanding how the law will handle those who enforce it. And really, it boils down to about 3 seconds and 3 shots fired. The driver of an SUV reverses, pulls forward, and the agent in harm's way shoots and kills. These crucial moments, and very possibly this video in particular, the clearest I've yet to see, form much of the basis of the official government account of, and the agent in harm's way shoots.
And by the way, why would you be in front of the car? There's 2 of them at the side, and then this one guy here pops up out of the hole in the ground. Why would you be in front of a car? Because you basically wanted to stop her, from driving away. Okay? She clearly reversed, so you know that she's going to turn to the right. Okay? Is that justification to shoot her? Is it? They'll make up some laws, or they will, the existing laws, they will, try and justify this. But it's unjustifiable, man. Okay? But all of this could have been avoided, man. Because you don't go out there looking for trouble. So us, that in this truth, we ain't supposed, Apostle said this years ago, all of these uproars and protests, we're not supposed to be there, man. Alright? We know where this place is going. We don't need to be amongst all this madness. Alright? The reason why a lot of Israelites are out there protesting is because they're not in his truth. And they don't see a future beyond the white man ruling over them. But we in the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, we know that this man's rule is coming to an end. So what's the point going out there and protesting? There's no point,
And kills. These crucial moments, and very possibly this video in particular, the clearest I've yet to see, form much of the basis of the official government account of what happened. That the driver was a violent rioter who weaponized her vehicle in an attempt to kill, and that the ICE officer, fearing for his life, fired defensive shots. Within hours of the incident, Donald Trump would agree with that version of events, saying the driver of the SUV violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer, while also claiming the officer seems to have shot her in self-defense.
This vehicle was used to hit this officer. It was used as a weapon, and the officer feels as though his life was in jeopardy.
I'm going to take you.
So his life was in jeopardy. How his life was in jeopardy when she was trying to get away from the scene? You see, this is absolute madness, man. But they will justify anything because they're the adversary. Okay, they're the adversary. So that's why the Bible says to be wise as a serpent, all right, wise as a serpent and gentle as doves. We have to move, in stealth in this time. We have to move carefully in this time, all right? This is not the time to go out there and make grand statements and be some kind of crusader. What's happening with the whole ICE thing, the Lord is doing it, man. Because a nation divided against itself cannot stand. And that's how you know that this American so-called empire is coming to an end. Okay?
Frame by frame, through what we know from video evidence, expert opinion, and hard rules on the use of force, all of which could be used to determine whether this was indeed self-defense or something else.
Don't let the murderer leave!
We want the murderer of Renee Nicole Good to be brought to justice.
According to the Department of Homeland Security, ICE agents were carrying out a quote-unquote targeted operation in Minneapolis, and the official account is that civilians were trying to block them in. Video of the shooting about to unfold appears to support this, with this dark red SUV blocking the road, and these are ICE agents approaching the driver's side. We can see from this other angle, the SUV is actually parked here for some period of time. This man right here is the officer who within moments you will see drawing his gun. He's filming the car, walking around it, then disappears out of frame. Back to the other angle. The armed, hooded agents approach, ordering the driver blocking their way to get out of the car. You can see here the reverse lights go on. Just a split second before, this ICE agent puts his hand on the door handle. He's going to try to open that door, but it's locked.
No!
The voice we're hearing there is of a bystander. What we can't hear is the driver herself. That's a key piece of evidence we're missing, because when weighing the totality of what's happened, the apparent fight or flight of the driver absolutely factors in.
That can include verbal cues, facial tics, whatever you're seeing. Someone has a look in their eye, you need to get in there, interview the officers who are right there, interview the officer himself involved in the shooting, get a better understanding of what it was he was seeing and what led him to believe that this posed such an imminent danger.
No!
Now, if we pause the video again right here, a whole series of things are about to happen in rapid succession, and I'll break them down one by one. First, you'll notice the reverse lights are off. The car's back in drive, and for the briefest of moments, at a complete stop. Second, the agent who just tried to open the driver's side door has now reached inside the vehicle itself. But third, and most importantly, we now see a third ICE officer emerge. This is the one we saw earlier, filming the vehicle circling around it. He's in front of the vehicle now, and he's drawing his gun.
There's no restriction about when you can take your weapon out of your holster or not. But normally it's when you feel like you are a potential threat. For instance, if you're engaged in an arrest, you have your weapon out in most cases during an arrest.
It's as the vehicle starts to accelerate forward, turning to the right, away from the officer with the gun, he fires 3 distinct shots. The driver immediately loses control of the vehicle. Seconds later, it crashes hard into a parked vehicle on the side of the road. And we learn later, the driver's dead.
Oh my God! What the What?
And you notice that them agents now, they're moving away from the scene. They've seen what they've done, all right? This woman has been shot in the face, all right? And she's lost control of the car, and it's smashed into a parked car. They see that, and now they're retreating. Yeah, you know why they're retreating? To try and get their stories straight. He panics, man, all right? Now remember, we have to know who we're dealing with, man. Okay? What was the blessing of their forefather? All right? Right. So, You know, they have a blessing. And that blessing is the sword. Alright? For Edomites, so-called white people. Alright? That's their blessing. Okay? That's what Isaac gave them. And who was Isaac in the reincarnation? Yahushai. Alright? So, see, once you know that, oh, the Lord is bad, man. You know, he set up this man, you know, to have this blessing of the sword. And that's how the Lord is going to take him out. He's going to send his, you know, Isaac gave him, alright, that blessing. By the sword thou shalt live. Alright? And they have lived by the sword. Missiles, rockets, bullets, the Gatling gun, this, that, and the other. But that same sword is going to destroy them in the way of nuclear missiles, man. Alright? So, the so-called white man, what does he have faith in? He doesn't have faith like us. He's carnal. He has faith in his military, his police force, alright? His military might. Because that's the spirit that the Heavenly Father gave him. Genesis 24 and 40. And by thy sword thou shalt live. Alright? Thou shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, thou shalt break his yoke off thy neck. So what was his blessing? Was the sword. Alright? So when you know that, okay, that's why this truth is everything, and you get stopped by agents who have sidearms on them, alright, on their holsters, they're itching to bring those sidearms out, you know, especially if it's one of our people. They're itching to kill you jakes, man, you know, but they're trigger happy because of this blessing that the Heavenly Father gave them. Okay, back here.
So knowing how the altercation ends, let's play that video out once again without stopping and starting. Then we'll consider whether this supports or discredits the Trump administration version of events.
No! No! Shame! Shame!
In considering the federal narrative of what happened, let's go from easy to hard. Recall the story told by the President of the United States that the driver of the SUV violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer. It is incorrect to say the ICE officer was run over, because he wasn't. He's on his feet in front of the vehicle as the driver hits the gas. He appears to almost jump out of the way, and by the time he's firing his second and third shots, he's clear of the vehicle's path. He's still standing, even as the driver loses control, and within seconds, he's walking towards the car after it's crashed. What we can't be sure of at this point is whether he was actually clipped by the car. Trump's account is that the officer took time to recover in hospital, and he offered this video as proof that the officer was indeed hit. From this angle, it does seem possible that he was, but it's not conclusive. The video's so grainy, and honestly, it's hard to tell whether the compression of the zoom is just making it look like he was hit, or whether he was actually hit. Going back to this angle, it's still not totally clear to me whether he was or wasn't. It's hard to tell if he's pushed back by the car or he's simply jumping back out of the way. In any case, the real legal question at hand isn't actually so much about whether the officer was run over. It's whether he was justified in shooting and killing the driver.
As he was crossing in front of a vehicle, which the training says you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't cross in front of a vehicle.
And whether the training was followed is one.
That's beautiful, yeah, what the guy said. Alright, you shouldn't go across a vehicle. That's in their training. So he's gone against everything that he was trained to do. Okay? That's important, man. Let's hear it again.
In front of a vehicle, which the training says you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't cross in front of a vehicle.
And whether the training was followed is one thing to consider. This policy directive from the Department of Homeland Security states, DHS law enforcement officers should avoid intentionally and unreasonably placing themselves in positions in which they have no alternative to using deadly force. Translation: if you truly believe the subject you're dealing with is a violent and dangerous rioter, it is not standard procedure to then step in front of the vehicle that they're driving. But what about when the situation turns deadly?
What I see is very clear. I see somebody not listening to law enforcement, backing up, accelerating right into an ICE agent. What do you see?
What I see is a vehicle being used as a deadly force weapon. And that, in my opinion, based on my training, deadly force is justified.
ICE has its own handbook, its own principles governing the use of force. And here's the entry on deadly force, which stipulates it may only be used in situations when an officer has probable cause that the detainee poses an imminent danger of death or serious physical injury to the officer or to another person. But importantly, deadly force may not be used solely to prevent the escape of a fleeing suspect. So let's look again at the clearest video we have. The operative question here, which really only a thorough investigation is going to be able to answer: was this driver fleeing from ICE agents or actually trying to run one over? And importantly, whether it was reasonable for the officer to think it was the latter.
The officer cannot read the mind of the driver. He only sees the vehicle coming towards him, accelerating towards him, and he is in the pathway. And so the evaluation is, given these circumstances, what would a reasonable officer do in that circumstance?
What makes cases like this really difficult is that you're going to hear fierce opinion from both sides. One attorney, as on Fox News, saying this:
you know, you can freeze frame it, you can go forward a frame, oh, here she seems to turn to the right. The bottom line is that agent had about a quarter of a second to make a decision, and when he made that decision, that car was accelerating towards him.
But then another attorney, obviously a Democrat, saying the opposite, calling Trump's explanation pure gaslighting.
What I can tell you is the narrative that this was just done in self-defense is a garbage narrative. That is bullshit. This was an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying.
Originally, the state of Minnesota, led by Democratic Governor Tim Walz, says it asked to be part of the investigation into this deadly shooting. But now, the federal attorney's office says they're off the case.
I think you've seen enough to know that this is nothing but a cover-up. You know what I mean? You know, and it's funny because, you know, as I said last week, one of the brothers was saying after camp, you know, it's the importance of prayer, you know, especially in the times we're in now. And one of the reason why I said it, because, you know, here there's this cold snap and the roads are icy, etc. We were talking about this guy, was named Anthony Joshua, who was in Nigeria and had a car crash and lost his two friends, you know, in the car crash, you know, and so forth. He didn't know that, you know, that would be him and his friend's last journey, you know. So the importance of prayer, and it's true, because in the times we're in, you know, the Lord is making things happen, man, you know. So these scriptures are a guide to life, you know. They're a guide to life. Now, what is going to happen to these officers that did this? Absolutely nothing, man. I guarantee you, investigation, nothing is going to come out of it. Nothing whatsoever, you know, because this man is in power, you know. This man is corrupt, and he's in power. He's gonna stick up for his own, you know. And that's why the elect of the nation of Israel is the most important thing in its truth, you know, because the elect is gonna have the right mindset. All right, they're gonna have the same. They're gonna speak and say the same thing. They're gonna have the same spirit that is on them. All right, and that spirit comes from Yahweh Shem Yahushai, man. And in doing that, you preserve your life. Okay, we know many of our people are gonna, you know, many of the elects are gonna suffer and die, you know. But we're doing that for a higher cause, man. You know, to have that incorruptible crown. Okay, so who's in power now? Esau is. Nothing is gonna come out of these investigations whatsoever. This is Psalms 73 and 5. Alright? Psalm 73 and 4. For there is no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. Verse 5. They are not in trouble as other men. You know? And that's correct. And I guarantee you, then they are not in trouble as other men. You know? They have something called white privilege, man. Alright? They stick up for their own, unlike our people. They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. Alright? Verse 6. Therefore pride compasseth them about as a chain. And they're very proud, man. You saw those interviews, press conferences. Oh, they were doing their job, this, that, and the other. Everything that they said. Alright? From that woman to, what's his name, Donald Trump. They're all proud, man. Alright? Therefore pride compasseth them about as a chain. Violence covereth them as a garment. They are violent people, man. That's why it says in Matthew 5, agree with our adversary quickly. Alright? Alright? Verse 7. Their eyes stand out with fatness. They have more than heart could wish. Yeah. And it's true. They've got an abundance of resources. But this man is just using his abundance of resources for evil. Okay? But he's fulfilling his role in prophecy. We have to fulfill ours. Alright? As being the righteous. Okay? Alright? Psalm 73 verse 8. They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily. Yeah, I'll give you a good example of that. Slavery was a long time ago. Get over it. You know? Oh, you sold your own people. That's them being corrupt and speaking wickedly when concerning oppression. They speak loftily, meaning they're looking down on everyone when they speak. You know? But hey, their time is coming to an end, man. And all these things that are happening are signs that their time is coming to an end. You know? It's incredible. And I remember there was a press conference I saw about this, and remember this is the same place where they killed George Floyd, you know what I mean? And one of the guys in this press conference, he said, you know what, blacks and Latinos, this has been happening to us for ages. All of a sudden now it happens to one white woman. Now everyone's listening. What? That's true. The reason why, because it's their rulership, man. They are in power. You know, they're the ones that are in power, and they don't want that to change. Okay, there's one clip I wanted to show you as well. Okay, let's go ahead.
Oh my goodness. So unless you've been living under a rock, I'm sure you're well aware of the recent story of an American citizen who is now deceased thanks to, the actions of an ICE agent. And I want people to understand that this wasn't any ordinary, regular American citizen, okay? Just like they did when it came to the immigrants and the Ukraine immigrants coming over to the United States, how those weren't regular refugees, that those were something special with blue eyes and blonde hair.
But this isn't a place, with all due respect, like Iraq or Afghanistan, that has seen conflict raging for decades. This is a relatively civilized, relatively European, I have to choose those words carefully too.
These are prosperous middle-class people. These are not obviously refugees trying to get away from areas in the Middle East, from areas in North Africa.
It's very emotional for me because I see European people with blue eyes and blonde hair being killed.
These are not refugees from Syria. These are Christians, they're white.
That's the same thing here, okay? Not only was this a white person, a white American citizen, but this was a white female American citizen. Not only a white female American citizen, but a white female American citizen that was a mother of 3.
Damn.
Now, upon that information coming out, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, yo, it's a wrap. This ICE agent, he's cooked, he's finito. I'm expecting him to get the South Park treatment. Now, for those of you who don't know, there's an episode where George Zimmerman's on South Park. He pops Cartman, thinking that Cartman's black. Turns out Cartman has black face on him. He has black paint. George Zimmerman gets a guilty verdict, sentence, death penalty, and that's it.
Hey, wait a minute. This kid isn't black. He's white. Wait, what? Guilty.
That's what I'm expecting. I'm like, yo, it's a wrap then. It's a wrap. Game over. Pack it up. ICE is done. They're finito. They just killed a white woman who's a mother of three. It's done so. I don't want to hear it. I already know this ICE agent. He's never going to see the light of day. He may get the death penalty. His family may get threats. It's done. Bruh. That is not what happened. Not to make light of a tragedy, but that is not what happened. These mofos were on code, okay? They were on code. And it really goes to show the hatred, right? The hatred that these people have for not only black people, but for brown people, for immigrants, because what they are likening her to is essentially an N-word lover.
He's out of line, but he's right.
That's what they're equating her to. A lot of the memes are saying, hey, I died for an N-word. That's what they're saying. They're saying, I died for a Somali N-word. They're putting her face, the same face as George Floyd. They are mocking this white woman who is a mother of three. Now, this came as a shock to me because I'm like, wait, what? I always, under the impression that, all white people are a good chunk, at least, were on code, right? They're on code. But it is it's a revelation to understand that white conservatives view white liberals as essentially just light-skinned black people, okay? They view them as light-skinned N-words. Damn. They view them as...
Even over that clip, we go, damn. But it's true. Because she had, from social media and people that knew her, she was against all these ICE raids and stuff. And now she's been killed. All right? A lot of white people are like, well, she deserved it. The reason why they were saying these things is simply because she was sticking up for Israelites. I'm sure she didn't know that, blacks and Hispanics are Israelites, but because she is sticking up for them, if you go on the comment boards, they're saying, oh, well, she deserved it, this, that, and the other. That shows you the hatred that they have for our people and anyone else that wants to help our people, and we don't need the help because we know that prophecy is going to take place and we're going to, it's going to be Trading Places. That's why that film, Trading Places, is a very spiritual film, man. All right? This is Job 20:5. All right? All right, Job tells that the triumphing of the wicked is short and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment. All right? And they're hypocrites, man. All right? They're hypocrites. 100%. Talking about, we're losing our country, this, that, and the other. We love all Americans, this, that, and the other. But anytime any of these Edomites, or in particular, want to help Jake, they become an enemy as well. So they're not mourning this woman at all. So there is hypocrisy that Esau has. He's nothing but a hypocrite. Alright, verse 6. Though his excellency mount up to the heavens, and his head reach in the clouds. Verse 7. Yet he shall perish forever like his own dung. Alright, they which have seen him shall say, where is he? And this is what we're waiting for. We're waiting for this brutal, unfair, unrighteous ruler, all right, to be taken out of the way by Yahushua coming back, all right? They're going to serve slavery for 1,000 years, and then they're going to be done away with, man. You know what I mean? Verse 8, he shall fly away as a dream, and shall not be found. Yea, he shall be chased away as a vision of the night. And this is going to happen. This prophecy is going to happen, man, when they serve slavery under us. Because you're not going to get any justice in this system whatsoever, because he runs this system. Remember that, man. He runs the system. So you're going to get justice in his courts. He runs the courts. Okay? I know. And there's a scripture that says that, and nothing's going to happen to them ICE agents. That's it. That's why I don't hold my breath when it comes to all these inquiries, because I know the scriptures, man. All right? No, you know what I mean? It's just a formality. You know, they do an investigation, they sit on it, like all the temperatures simmer down, and then months or years later they bring out the result. You know, but Lord willing, this is going to lead to something bigger, you know, because that's the next prophecy is Jacob's trouble, man. All right, this is Psalms 73. All right, and I can start verse 4. All right, for there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. Verse 5, they are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. All right, and if you look at it, it's talking about wicked Israelites. I mean, if you look at Israelites that are wicked and getting money off of crime and all that stuff, you know, this applies to them. But also, if you apply it to Esau, the so-called white man, he is not in trouble as other men because he runs the system. So there's no point in investing your time in this kingdom and in this system, all right, and think you're going to get justice. You ain't going to get justice, okay? You ain't going to get justice, all right? The corrupt, the rich, the powerful in this kingdom, they usually get away with things, you know? But no one really gets away with it because the Heavenly Father, all right, he judges people in his time, okay? And the ones that are sticking up for this idiot, you know, and you know, and trying to justify this wickedness, all right, you're an abomination unto the Lord. All right, I think it's it. Yeah, Proverbs. I think it's Proverbs. Proverbs. Is it Proverbs? Yes, Proverbs. 17. Oops, shoot. 17, I think 15. Yeah. Yeah, Proverbs 17 and 15. He that justifieth the wicked, all right, we know the wicked are these Edomites, so-called whites, and he that condemneth the just, and the just are who? The elect. Even they both are an abomination unto the Lord. All right, because you have a lot of coconuts out there that are trying to make excuses and justify what these what's it called? These ICE soldiers did, and it's not the first time they've killed someone. I was watching the news, and this is about 8 people now so far they've killed in the last few months. So they're killing you, Jakes, man. All right. Now this is going to lead to what? Lord willing, uprisings, man. All right, uprisings of the people, and that's the prophecy that we're looking at, man. All right. This is 2nd Ezra 15 and 15. For the sword and the destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another. Okay? And that's going to happen. And a lot of times, the elites use the movies to show you what's coming down the pipeline. All right? And swords in their hands. So we're talking about civil war here, man. All right? One people fight against another people. That's when people are going to start to become tribal and go back to their own race and their own people, okay, for protection. That's what's going to happen. Verse 16, for there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. And you can see this happening because a lot of people are disgusted at what Donald Trump has said and Vance has said about this issue. You know, the more they keep being like that, the more chances we're going to have of this uprising and sedition, man. All right, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. So this great tribulation is coming, man. Okay, which is in the Bible called Jacob's trouble. You know, and who do you think is going to orchestrate that, man? All right, who's going to put the chess pieces in place for this prophecy to come to pass? You know, yes, it's the Heavenly Father, but who's gonna the main adversary? Yeah, it's your slave master that is unrepentant, man. All right? That's why it said Jeremiah 13:7, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. So no other time on the planet Earth is going to be like this. Great tribulation, Jacob's trouble. All right? It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. And who's going to be saved? The elect. They're going to be saved out of it. And believe me, you know, this is what we have to be saved from, man. All right? So I pray you're edified. I just wanted to do a little short lesson on that. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, we have to watch what we say, even online. You know, we have to be circumspect, man. You know? All right? So I pray you're edified to the next lesson. Shalom.
The United States Army ramps up activity.
The White House issued warnings to the Western forces as well as the Florida Alliance.
The three-term president assures the uprising will be dealt with swiftly.
Let me know if you want to try anything on.
Are you guys aware there's like a pretty huge civil war going on all across America?
We just try to stay out. With what we see on the news, seems like it's for the best.
Citizens of America, the so-called Western forces of Texas and California have suffered a very great defeat at the hands of the United States military.
Mr. President, do you regret the use of airstrikes against American citizens? We're moving to D.C. today.
We need to go down there.
They shoot journalists on sight in the Capitol. Every instinct in me says this is death. Blooded.
Every time I survived a war zone, I thought I was sending a warning home. Don't do this. But here we are.
There's some kind of misunderstanding here. What? Well, you're American, okay? Okay. What kind of American are you? You don't know?
The Western forces will reach the White House on July 4th.
Oh my God.
Get in the car! Get in the car!
Move, move, move!
You're gonna hang back.
I'm not hanging back.
One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go, 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 go!
God bless America.